Welcome to NC Political Tea, the show where North Carolina's political scene gets served piping hot, grassroots style. We're here to shake up the status quo with unapologetically conservative takes and a whole lot of Southern charm. From the halls of Congress to under the dome, we're exposing the deals, the drama, and the dirt that the mainstream media won't touch. Who's fighting for your freedom? Who's selling out to the woke mob? And who's about to get roasted? No fluff, no filters, and absolutely no time for spineless politics. Just bold Republican commentary, sharp analysis, and enough sass to make the left squirm. So grab your sweet tea or something stronger, and let's dive into the hottest headlines and juiciest scandals rocking the Tar Heel State. This is NC Political Tea.
Well, hello. How are you?
Well, it's been a long weekend. We had a lot of drama up here in Western North Carolina at the NC 11 convention.
Tell us what happened there.
Well, I'd say it was a takeover of geriatrics. I mean, when you have to bring your oxygen tank in to win an election, that just goes to show you. It was really, truly was. I'm convinced that Jason Simmons asked Mary Guy to run in the NC 11 district. And I have evidence of that because she was not invited by anybody to meet Trump at the airport. And yet she showed up, and the only person that could have invited her was Jason. So she did win. She won after 2 overvotes, which were very embarrassing. And they made a scene when they won. It was pretty embarrassing. So the establishment has taken over NC 11. And here's my prediction. One of these counties is going to fall to the Democrats. It's either going to be Haywood or Henderson, but one of them is going to fall.
I hope you're not right. So for those of you watching that are not familiar with North Carolina politics, this is the area with the most population in Western North Carolina. So during the storm and all that, Helene recovery, the current GOP chair really did a lot of heavy lifting and getting a lot of people.
Former chair,
right. And people everything they needed. So there was a big election, and that ended up, just as several others did, in complete chaos. So, but what's not in chaos is Trump's first 100 days, which just saw the part of the rally, right? We're breaking some of the rally, and he's really good at going over what he's done well, and we're going to go over all that. So here's how Caroline Leavitt heralded in this big day yesterday.
Marks 100 days of promises made and promises kept by President Trump. This has truly been the most historic start to a presidency in American history. After building the greatest economy in the world in his first term as president, President Trump is in the process of doing that all over again.
So let's go over several things that he's done economy-wise. This is education. So I think the biggest thing is DOGE. And the coolest thing is that states like North Carolina and others have replicated that in their own state government.
Well, I would say the biggest thing inside DOGE is automating the processes in a fluid manner using good software and removing replication and finding the fraud. That's absolutely the biggest thing underneath DOGE itself. And I think, the other big thing that I don't see on here that I think is most important is 3 illegals in 60 days. I mean, we've had 3 illegals come in the country in 60 days. That is monumental.
Well, I'm going to go over them incrementally.
Okay. Oh, you're doing an economy first. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Economy. And so DOGE has been very good. So it saves the taxpayer around $1,000 per year.
At least.
Right. Yeah.
They think now that they can move it from $100,000 or $150,000 where you don't have to pay taxes if you make less than to $200,000, which is a lot more significant households.
Well, the rate of change has been just lightning fast. I thought what Britt Hume said last night on a special report with a guy who follows me. I thought you'd like to hear what.
Well, it was a roaring start, like nothing I think any of us had ever seen before, with so many issues attacked all at once. And he has had, I think, an undeniable success on the border. They're claiming that, and they have every right to. The border crossings that have been so numerous, so staggeringly numerous during the Biden years, have been reduced to a little trickle. It's a clear success. The president
just like what you said, right? And then here is Dana Perino was on and actually followed up, but look at the footage.
House, they've now have all these row of criminal immigrants, illegal immigrants who have been kicked out of the country and accused there of all these crimes, arrested and deported. What about on the messaging front? You used to be in that job.
Yes.
For 100
First of all, the messaging here is brilliant. Right?
days. What
It
do you
is
think?
brilliant.
I think that Caroline Leavitt was brilliant to kick off today's 100 days, basically marking that moment with immigration. They led with their strong suit. It is immigration. The border in particular, like the border security, an unbelievable success story.
But it's more than that. It's what we voted for.
It is what we voted
exactly
for.
what we voted for. So let's look at, on illegal immigration, this is how it impacts North Carolina very much. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But border crossings are down by 92%. And you just said that a trickle has come in?
He said in the last 60 days, they've had 3 cases, and all of them were attributed to illness by the person trying to get in that needed to be treated. He actually said that in his 100-day rally tonight.
Okay. Well, that's an example of how it's reduced by 92%. The Remain in Mexico policy is very sensible, was reinstated. Ending birthright citizenship, that is in court. But these ICE issues, this is how it's affecting North Carolina, because not only do we have crazy sheriffs like in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and Wake County, where I am, and others, this administration is fighting, going toe to toe with states and even counties and cities on this stuff.
Thank God. Seriously. And to that point, a Democrat announced today that she will cross over and vote for that ICE legislation in North Carolina. A Mecklenburg Democrat. I think her last name's Cunningham. I really didn't pay attention. I was just skimming the article, but she said she will vote for this because the safety of her constituents is very important to her.
Just a moment. So this is a state representative. Okay,
Absolutely.
we're talking about the federal. But
I know,
yeah,
but we were equating it to North Carolina.
Great.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. Okay. So I think I know who you're talking about. And that's very interesting that you say she's from Mecklenburg County, because listen to McFadden, who is Charlotte Mecklenburg County's sheriff. So, and this is Tom Homan came right at him.
Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden have been feuding over how detainers are applied. Sheriff McFadden is holding people for the required 48 hours, but not calling ICE before suspects are released from jail. He says the law doesn't require him to do so.
It's just ridiculous. If you care about the safety and security of your community, give us that public safety training. Let us do our job.
The sheriff is crafting a policy for future federal arrests at the courthouse. He says he's worried this will deter people from showing up to court.
People who are undocumented are victims of crime. People who are undocumented also witness crimes.
Homan is asking for the ability to make arrests at the jail.
Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy back in our neighborhood either. So give us access to the jail to arrest that public safety threat.
And so Representative Cunningham realizes that and is doing the right thing and voting for the bill which we'll discuss. But I'm going to show you just alone. Oh, actually, Tom with an H put this up today that POTUS just signed an NEO requiring a list of all sanctuary jurisdictions in North Carolina. That is just the one I live in, sadly, and the one I was born in Mecklenburg County, for them to cooperate. But look, this is just in a 2-day period in March, 24 arrests in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. So
where are they getting those guns? They're worried about 18-year-olds having guns, and look at all these illegals that got guns.
Well, I got to tell you, in July 2024, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old carried out a series of 5 shootings in Charlotte within a 30-minute time frame. Remember that? Where there were shootings from cars, etc. And yeah, there were 2 illegals that did that, and a guy was murdered, and there were 3 seriously injured. Those are your 18 and 16-year-olds with guns.
Right. Right. It's funny when you scroll through X today and you see all the Democrats going, 18-year-olds should not have guns and they're going to try to make them, have free
Yeah.
carry guns. And I'm like, listen, are you going after knives next? Because that's what they took on the UNC campus.
Well, they just took away samurai swords in the UK, you see.
Exactly.
So they mean business over there, damn it.
Well, I think it's interesting that the Mecklenburg sheriff is actually not being proactive. He's being reactive. And he brought in the courtroom thing after what happened in Wisconsin.
Correct. Right. I mean, we know all of this stuff. And by the way, the juvenile crime is very, very serious in Charlotte. And for teens who are also illegals, gang members, to get over here and to be using them, it just seems like there's a special cutout and a special provision for non-citizens that we don't get. And I'm seeing that a lot in police departments, sadly, across the country.
Yeah, it's not just in police departments, though. It's in healthcare. They're getting benefits that we don't get. That they're getting a lot of what we would have thought would have been our rights.
Position.
Yeah, and I think that's really sad. That we were looking at Matt Von Swall's wife just had surgery, and I hope Aaron's doing well. But he talked about how much the bill was, and I literally said, if she was illegal, it would have been free, and that's a sad statement.
Yeah.
That we actually know it. We citizens know that they're getting away literally with murder and free healthcare and all the things that, we thought were I think we really underestimated how safe our country was. Or overestimated, I mean.
Yeah, I think we're seeing. I mean, you never know how dangerous it is, sadly, until it happens to you. But
absolutely.
On that, he put this up earlier. I mean, now we have what? Is this businesses?
They're a business workshop. Well, so here's the other thing about this. Not only do they have a business workshop on how to resist ICE, they've got pathways to help illegals remove themselves from the Asheville or be hidden.
So we're going to talk about this in a minute, but the North Carolina Senate has a bill that will remedy the stuff we're talking about. And I think maybe that's the bill that Cunningham was going to support. As you know, what the great news is that really the leader of the pack, who's Trump, in his first 100 days, he's been able to set the agenda for North Carolina. You are seeing a whole bunch of bills that are illegal immigration focused. You're also seeing a bunch of bills that are anti-DEI. You're seeing a DOJ unit put together. So it really has inspired state level changes here.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's made our speaker stronger than I expected him to be. He's really stood up for the constituents. He's said some things that I never thought I'd see a death penalty bill come back where they had the electric chair. Did you?
We're going to be talking about that. Yeah. And we really uncovered, let's put up the bill. So we do have a lot of bills that have been, we have some good and some bad bills that have been brought up to talk about for tonight. But okay, so this is the one we were talking about earlier, the Firearms Liberty Act. So it's got a few things in there that I wanted to run by you. It's a lifetime. There's two different tiers of gun ownership, right? There's a lifetime carry, and then there's just temporary. Can you explain more about that?
Well, some people really only need temporary concealed carry permits for specific events or in specific times in their life. I mean, let's be honest, if you're being cyber stalked, you may want to get a concealed carry. But you don't want it forever. You only want it for, a temporary amount of time. And then also there are incentives to, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of permit that costs more when you do a lifetime. You know what I mean? The state's going to make their money off that. And they're going to look for people that want a lifetime so they can charge more for it.
Well, it makes total sense. Then what I love is that schools now are authorized to have a lockbox for defensive devices and biometric safes. What this means, guys, is if, God forbid, there happens to be a school shooter, maybe there's 5 or 6 people in a school, and we see this all the time, especially in rural, North Carolina, where these people are former military teachers, PE teachers especially, right? Former military, specially trained. Maybe they're on the volunteer sheriff department, whatever, but they happen to be very well trained in schools, and it has a biometric lockbox. That means I guess they'll do a retina scan, probably in concert with a fingerprint.
The fingerprint.
Okay. But they they have some that are really, really, very well, right? And it has that so that if teachers are well trained and want to, they have access to that logbox. Love that. By the way, I don't know how many of you guys out there have had your concealed carry lapse, your card. I have had that happen before, and it's terrifying because it can take you you have to take another class.
And you have to pay for it. You have to go through the whole thing from the 1 day in the book to half a day at the range.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the ass if you've already taken it in the past.
Well, it's scary because you're out there, right? You're like, whoops, it expired. And then you've got to do that class, guys. And then it could take you up to 60 days in some areas to get your concealed carry. And
if they give it to you, because like Mecklenburg, we know they stall. Guilford, we know they stall. Yeah.
Well, luckily, Wake, it took me 15 days.
That's not bad.
That's good. Okay. Medical Bill of Rights. We've talked about this several times. This is coming up. Permission required for most minor medical care. Okay. That's essential. No jabs without parental consent. And then parents guaranteed full access to minors' medical records. Let me explain to you guys. At the age of 13, there are healthcare practices that may, and many do, say that if at 13, child has privacy and you as the parent, even though you're paying the bill, you have no right to see your child's medical records without their consent. Can you imagine?
Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm paying my kids, well, I got to tell you, when she hit, I think she was 18, she still was on my medical. I don't care what she does after 18, but from 13 to 18, that's prime time as far as I'm concerned. These are young people that are being molded into the people they're going to turn out to be as adults. And, that's the most influential time for a parent to be involved. And I'm not going to let that happen in my kids' life.
I agree. And we have a lot of predators who are actually masquerading as healthcare providers. That is a fact. We have exposed them here. We have active drug addicts. A damn homeboy who was taking a damn tank of nitrous oxide.
The laughing gas man.
In the car. That's like Margot's favorite person of all time, by the way. I'm telling you.
It's just because honestly, who does that?
I can't think. Well, a doctor, a practicing doctor. And why should they have more access and more privacy with my child, medically speaking, than I do? There's no way. There's absolutely no way. So we've got to stop that. I love this bill. We do have a Republican who's standing in the way. He's making phone calls to other Republicans. His name is Tim Reeder, Dr. Tim Reeder, who always tell you that, from Pitt County. But he does not like this bill because he wants doctors to have an outsized role in your child's life. He didn't have children, by the way.
To me, I think he may be a runner-up for a trans Republican.
Oh, he's going to be. Well, tonight we'll have a trans Republican.
We might have a month award. He'll get the month.
We'll have a Pride Month.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're going to have a Pride Month for that.
Hey, Sloan, on that parental rights bill.
Yeah.
Is there an accompanying bill that kind of works in line with this bill on some other things? I think I saw two parental rights bills, one or similar. One's medical, and isn't there another one that's coming up?
There is. This one was in, I believe, Judiciary today.
Okay.
So it's making its way through committee. This is another one of our favorites. Do not say that we aren't benevolent here to death row people. Okay? Because we're going to give them not one, not two, but 3 ways to die. Electric chair,
firing squad, my favorite.
Firing squad is really retro. Civil War buffs, you may prefer.
I don't know who would want to volunteer to be on that, to be honest.
I mean, this is a very macabre subject, but you know what? If you don't laugh in this business, you're going to cry. And I don't cry. So here we go. Okay. So this really, what this is really about is restarting the executions again. There's been a huge stall in North Carolina with folks sitting on death row that have had final appeals. That's important. But getting that off pause. drug shortages. I didn't realize this, Margot. Did you know that pharmaceutical and drug companies can say, you know what? We're not going to release that drug cocktail.
You're not going to give us the sodium pentothal? You know who will? The military.
Hell, China might. I mean, or wherever that be. And it minimizes legal delays. So I'm going to say, yeah, I like this. I like this.
Here's what it's so interesting to listen to the liberals whine about this and how uncivilized it is to have the death penalty come back with consequences. And I sit there and I think, man, do you know how many computations came up of people that one of them had murdered, been put in jail, got paroled, and murdered again? I'm sorry, but you know what? You don't deserve a commutation. You deserve to pick one of the three choices.
Well, absolutely. And I doubt seriously if these murderers of families, of single women who are out running, a lot of them actually, did they give their victims a choice on how to die?
Absolutely not.
No. I mean, these are reserved for the worst of the worst.
Right.
And, the death penalty is there for a reason. We need to be getting it back in action. We need to be getting back in the swing of things here. Okay. So this is what we were talking about. This is an enhancement for immigration and criminal conspiracy. That means those dumbasses in Asheville that are businesses that are deciding to defy the law and aid and abet criminal illegal aliens, they're going to get theirs. Okay.
Good.
That's going to be theirs. Hang on. Here we go. So it targets criminal illegal aliens. Okay. Disincentivize. Here's what I like. It shifts the sentencing structure too, and it raises the stakes in criminal trials for like drug trafficking, assault, theft, etc.
And cracks down on the organized crime element, which I'm glad we're doing that. It's bad enough we have American gangs, but now we have these, foreign gangs in here who literally are taking over major cities. I mean, it's been said that Myrtle Beach is pretty much owned by Trinidad. So I'm glad we're getting into the business of really, first of all, making them a terrorist organization. Secondly, going after them. And thirdly, getting them the hell out of here and put them in jail.
Right. And I love these state level actions. I have to tell you guys, the Republicans in the House and Senate, you're doing a magnificent job because the federal, immigration is obviously under the domain of the feds, and law enforcement is under the domain of the interior of the state. Right. So we're doing partnership bills that actually close loopholes in the federal system and enhance penalties in our state system. I think it's wonderful.
I'm all for getting the criminal element under control and out of this country.
Yeah.
As quickly as possible. By the way, in his speech tonight, he did show the El Salvador prison, and he did a film on it, and he talked about how important it was to move these people out of our country and into a secure facility. We're
like the Waldorf Astoria compared to some of these other prisons.
Agreed.
And we got to get them out for sure. And I'm glad that it seems like top to bottom. And now you say that Democrats, a couple of sensible Democrats are on board. This is going to be great. So this is one that you really like, clarifying and expanding the state auditor's authority. Okay. So
I think my favorite part about this bill is the fact that he's looking to add prosecutors to actually have teams to go out and not only find it, but then prosecute it.
Right. I mean, what good are all of these? And we've talked about this a lot, even when we've had State Auditor Dave Bolek on the show. What good is saying that the DPI or Department of Health failed their audit, which they do every single time they're audited, if there's no teeth behind it, and they come back and they say, oh, okay, we'll do better next time.
Uh-oh. Where is it that they give them the plan that says, okay, you failed, here's our recommendations, and we're going to follow through and make sure you do them?
No follow through.
Right. And so
and this is going to help because and it just makes sense. He's going to be able to take things from beginning to end all the way down the process.
Yeah, and I also like one thing. I saw Dave this weekend at the convention, and he also told me he's working really feverishly to get really good AI software embedded to start doing the preliminary audits that show the anomalies that kick them out, so that people aren't wasting time. They're actually able to go right to work and get to the meat of it based on preliminary audit oversight using AI and software tools. So I'm glad they're doing that. I'm glad to see Dave really getting in there and getting things done. He gave big shouts out to Charles Dingy and also to Brent Woodcock. And honestly, if he's happy with them, I'm happy with them. Let them do their jobs.
As long as people are doing their jobs. Now, let's talk about the DMV. Let me tell you, I don't know what I was doing. I got up really, really early, I think yesterday morning, and I went to go get my cup of coffee. The place was closed, so I went driving around, etc. I went to Fuquay, I think it was Fuquay, but a DMV out there was not even open yet. I mean, we're talking about 6 a.m. There were a couple dozen people lined up outside of the DMV. I mean, the lines are freaking absolutely insane. I brought that up because Dave is trying to, audit and see what's going on, where the money's going, what it can be used for. What do you think about this, man?
Well, I think it's $160 million is what they're asking for in the DOT budget for the DMV. But they're not asking to add personnel. No, actually 60 people will be leaving and going to the State Highway Patrol. They're not adding personnel, but they may need a new facility or two. What is going on? And here's the other thing. I personally believe that the legislature needs to go ahead and put a bill out there that says we're going to extend your driver's license upon expiration for 6 months, because honestly, it takes 3 months after your driver's license expired to still get in, if you can get in. So you've got to give people some relief.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a bill proposal out there to do that. But the lines are insane. I was on X today and found pictures of some lines. I mean, it's absolutely nuts what's going on. But, we have some good bills. We have some bad bills. Let me show you one that, this is part of the other one. Okay, here's our Trans Republican Award. This is Representative
That tells you everything you need to know.
Well, his name's Ray Pickett. He's from Watauga and Ashe County, and he has a bill that was downright socialist. It's a bill that makes it so that in Durham County and Watauga, I believe it's Ashe, it's affordable housing bill. So what would actually socialist, where you've got the market controlled by the actual government. He would come in and buy property and then would rent out property or give property to government workers.
I'm not for any of those types of legislation. I don't like a couple things. There is another bill, just to highlight. There's another bill going through that talks about the ability for you to build like a tiny house on the back of your property, and how the government shouldn't be involved in let permitting and all that. Leave it alone. I think it's interesting that the theme of our governor and these trans Republicans and a lot of Democrats are affordable housing. Well, before you put in affordable housing, why don't you put in some jobs? I mean, we desperately need affordable housing here, but there's no jobs to support it. It's a vicious circle. And the other
government, I'm firmly against the government giving out free housing, messing around with the free market. Price setting. We don't like rent control.
Mandatory multi-dwelling units. I don't like that either.
In this party, and I'm sure Pickett would have some, but Sloan, you don't understand. We really need it. No, conservatism, this is not how it works. We don't have socialism and conservatism because we really need it.
But Sloan, I will say this. He's from rural Western North Carolina, Watauga County. That's pretty rural. The same issue applies. Why would you do this if you don't have the business to support it?
Durham too. It's for Durham and several other counties.
That's funny, for Durham.
Right.
A poor person in Durham is a rich person in some of these rural areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. This is why Pickett gets our Trans Republican Award for tonight. Yeah, I mean, in what world are we controlling housing markets for government workers or from anyone? So
and it feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like the college kids have gotten to him. He needs to stop going smoking pot with them.
What?
You know what I mean? That sounds like something straight off Appalachian State University's campus.
Right. Well, I mean, somebody in Durham probably got to him and got him to do it.
They're just taking peyote over there or whatever that stuff's called.
So it all boils down to drugs.
I think so. Listen, he's definitely having some kind of a trans attack.
I mean, without a doubt. He's all transed out. He's all transed out. So what I loved to hear is that the DOJ is going to go after medical journals. And we've talked about this for a while. The corruption in the medical world is insane. This is our Pills, Profits, and Predators segment. All right. So, guys, I mean, if you haven't been in the industry, I'll tell you that the journals are, or if you're not a doctor, it's hard to understand the gravity of this. But, I mean, the DOJ is stirring up a hornet's nest, really, by sending letters out and saying, hey, you guys are fraudulent. Well, they actually are. They're questioning their editorial practices. They're saying they're biased, and they actually are. But medical journals are so important because they set practice of care. They share new discoveries. They educate future physicians. They force transparency in the industry. So
they also, I mean, the other thing is, since the advent of the internet, it allows a lot of scientists who are not medically, they're not in medicine, they're in biology or chemistry. They can go relate to those studies if they're done appropriately and they're accurate to compound research. And the other thing that I think is interesting is people read it. Average everyday people, they read some of those studies when it happens to correlate to something they have.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, an example is when the Journal of Pediatrics came out and said that masks are an absolute must. You must wear those masks. Then they had to come out and say the study was corrupt. This is just one example. Study was corrupt, and they had to take it back. That's one. Two is the Journal of, I believe it was JAMA, came out and started picking Trump's COVID plan apart, where he wanted to open schools. So those are just examples of the massive coordination. One of them came out and said hydrochloroquine will kill you. Literally, that was a New England Journal of Medicine, and then had to come out and say the study was faulty, et cetera. Those are three examples during COVID of how they really had a hand in perverting themselves and screwing with the public trust. Can't have it.
Well, I mean, all three of those journals to me are right in there with CNN. You know what I mean? I wouldn't trust anything they said now because they lost their credibility, just like the Nobel Prize Committee. They've all lost their credibility going woke over things that we know. We caught them red-handed during COVID. And now it makes everything suspect. That's the bad part, right? Even if you do good work, everyone is suspicious now. And we have to move away from that in some way.
When you're corrupting public health, you are literally causing death on a mass scale. That's how serious it is.
I just think eroding public trust and trust of doctors who rely on your studies, that's a hard bounce back from.
Yeah. Well, here's what RFK said early on in the administration.
Of the office, but also, the Justice Department should immediately call in begin an investigation of the medical boards and the collusion between the pharmaceutical industry and the medical boards that are delicensing these physicians who actually try to heal patients and try to treat them. The Justice Department will also call in the medical journals that are corrupted by the pharmaceutical industry and explain to them that they're all going to be subject to criminal and civil challenge the mercantile interests of pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
good for him.
4 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have been called conspiracy theorists. But now that all these studies have been retracted, now that the truth is coming out, we see this. Look, my husband is a scientist and he's published in Nature. That is the top, the creme de la creme of journals as far as science go. And told me, back when he published 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there's serious politics in this game. And if they don't like you, they're not going to publish you, or they're going to maybe publish you, but come out with a rebuttal, right? Even on Good Science the next month. So we've known for years it's been political, but it has gotten insane.
Yeah, my daughter's the same way. She worked at NASA, chaired many, many papers, and I didn't realize how, at that level, it's more about vying for a position and not the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, this is why, and it really is crazy how those of us who are I follow alternative medicine, body hacking, right? And I will listen. I have a trusted list of people that I listen to and podcasts. Some of them are doctors, but I will trust them before I will trust anyone in medicine.
Yeah. Well, I have my own family members that are doctors, and
yeah.
Listen, they went to Harvard. They're not dumb by any means. They've got a PharmD too, but their views are wacky, and it's hard to pull those two things apart,
Well, when you say Harvard, it says it all right there.
I know. I knew you were going to say that.
Sorry, I'm not really high on Harvard right now, guys. So last week, we didn't get to come on because things were going on. But last week, Trump came out with an EO that said, we're going to strip back Obama-based, race-based discipline policies. And we're going to have common sense discipline, or really just kind of leave it at, oh, by the way, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Here are the questions that the DOJ has sent to medical journals asking them. I think these are reasonable. How do you assess your responsibilities to protect the public from misinformation? Do you accept articles or essays from competing viewpoints? So, I mean, these are reasonable questions. Otherwise, it's racketeering. It's a conspiracy to spew misinformation and collecting money from pharma.
Yep.
So
I'm with you.
So
look, there's our friend
Annette Albright, who is a wonderful advocate based right here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg, the belly of the beast. Let me put up a segment, a bit of what we talked about last time she was on the show.
Government shrinks, in my mind, instead of hardcore discipline policies that are followed. Mm-hmm. So this is what taxpayers don't like to see, because as the spending goes up in social emotional learning, which I've covered that's been my beat for 5 years. As that's gone up, violence has gone up, sexual assault at school has gone up, transgender's gone. Look at this. This is in Wake County. This is social emotional learning. Why does a library need explore LGBT books in our school library?
Yeah.
Well, I really didn't put up the quote that I wanted, but we were talking about restorative justice, and restorative justice triggers both you and I, because
but she went through it beautifully in that segment where she talked about, the whole sit down and pat him on the hand thing, instead of really getting around to discipline.
Well, yeah. So restorative justice, and I'm not kidding you when I give you an outline of what's going on. Let's say Bobby was even sexually assaulting Carolyn, okay? And instead of kicking Bobby out of school for the year, they will literally have therapy groups where Bobby forces Carolyn to accept some sort of apology, not always sincere. And it's bullshit.
Well, to have to face your accuser when you've been the victim of something like that, that's just torture.
It is. It's further triggering. And another thing that he rolled back in this EO is this. On college campuses, what Obama did was made it so that if any girl accused a guy of sexual assault, Just her accusation was enough and no evidence was required.
Oh, that sounds like a lovely policy.
It was-
Very, very crucible-like.
Well, it basically set up de facto star chambers for young men to be run out of school, and it did a tremendous amount of damage to a lot of young men.
That makes me think of that case at UNC we talked about one time a long time ago.
Yeah.
We still don't know who the gentleman's name is, but he is from Western North Carolina, who was put in that same situation, and they pushed him out of school.
They also took away his scholarship.
And they ruined his reputation.
Yeah. These things are deeply traumatizing to people. I mean, if you don't have evidence, you should not be able to accuse someone. You shouldn't be able to arrest someone.
Yeah. I think I'm glad Trump is doing that.
It absolutely had to happen. Also, there was a quota that schools could not go over. So let's say Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, who is, I believe they're 60% minority. If they had a certain proportion of suspended students that were of color, the DOJ would come down here and investigate them. So all school systems were trying to monkey around with their race. Right. And it didn't matter that there was a large, it wouldn't matter if there's a larger proportion of Black students or not. And by the way, they never took the victim into account, because we know that most victims are minorities as well. Most victims, it's generally minorities involved with other minorities. There can be exceptions to that, but that's generally what we see.
Well, here's what I'm seeing though. The first 100 days, we're getting into the 101 and beyond. The finer details of things that need to be taken care of, like this particular one. He's starting to get into the finer details. We got the major waves. Now we're going to go back and get the smaller ripples.
Right. Well, classroom discipline is huge. I mean, you
100%.
can't, if you don't have an environment that is conducive to learning, you're not going to have teachers that want to come to school. That's why, I mean, look, in North Carolina, today, as a matter of fact, the NCAE, which is a de facto police or teacher union,
that's the same thing,
came out and said, again, we're not being paid money and teachers are leaving. The problem is that teachers are leaving. A lot of teachers are leaving because of violence in the classroom, and they don't have the power to control their environment.
Well, and we know that safety is one of the major concerns. And first of all, I understand the pay issue. I don't think teachers in North Carolina are paid well, comparatively speaking. I don't think they should be making $100,000 a year like they are in Illinois, but here we are. But yeah. I do have compassion. If you're going to have a job where you're going to be put in danger, and I do think there are some school systems in North Carolina that are absolutely dangerous. Mecklenburg clearly has issues. Durham clearly has issues. Wake clearly has issues. I don't think all school systems are like that. And I think that we need to look at those individual counties and make assessments that are going to make things better for those teachers.
Yeah, I agree. But safety is a part of it. I mean, you wouldn't want to come to work every day if you got your ass beat, would you? Well, wait a minute. We do get our ass beat every day.
No.
Work.
No, we don't. We don't. We get talked about every day like they're beating our ass, but they are not. Because listen, if they're talking about us, they're leaving somebody else alone.
Well, that's true. So all of you owe us a debt of gratitude, because all of the haters are focused on the two of us. That's right. They're not focused on you. Okay, so that's it. That's a wrap. So we got a lot of great things going on in the first 100 days. Thursday, we're gonna have a special guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. But I know this is going to be a big legislative week because we're heading up to crossover. That's when the bills have to pass at least one house and make it over, or one chamber and make it over.
Well, I hope on Thursday, I hope we get a chance to. It's market week in High Point. So while we really want to have Maria Adams on, she's in the middle of market, I understand. But I really
tell us about her.
Yeah, I would really, really like to get her. She's Moms of Liberty for Guilford County. There's a lawsuit going on in Guilford County want to make sure people understand what's going on in that lawsuit and have her speak to it. And I also want her to speak to all of our audience across North Carolina about how important Moms for Liberty are when it comes to protecting your child and being associated with them. So stay tuned for that. We're going to try to get her on Thursday. Pending market is slowing down.
That would be great. Hey, look, at least, in North Carolina, if you're watching and you don't know what it is, it's a furniture market where buyers come in from all over the world, right?
If you're from North Carolina and you don't know what market is, you don't live in the right area of North Carolina. I'm just going to say.
You don't know what pimento cheese is and NASCAR and Cheerwine. So
it's so funny that I sent her a text message to see if we could get her on. And she said, I'm at market this week in case you don't know. And I said, I worked market from age 14 up. I know market really well. So those of you that are working at market this week, we're thinking about you and bring those orders in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great for the whole state economy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, have a very good evening. We will see you Thursday. Well, at least it looks like we're going to have 2 guests now because I'm bringing one as well, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. Okay. So we will see you on Thursday. Remember, share this with 10 friends and keep the tips coming, by the way, because if we didn't have the tips on what was going on, we'd be lost without you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for all that you do to support us, for the articles you send us, the highlights you give us on X, and just in general for your support. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's a wrap on today's NC Political Tea. We hope you're leaving sharper, spicier, and ready to take on the political craziness in the Tar Heel State. If you loved what you heard, or even if it made you mad, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this show with your friends, family, and that one coworker who just needs the truth. Follow us on social media to stay in the loop and get your daily dose of conservative fire. And remember, here in North Carolina, the grassroots grows stronger when we stand together. Until next time, keep the faith, keep up the fight, and don't let the left water down your tea. This is NC Political Tea, where we spill it like it is.